morning, everyone. I am Katie Cartman, the Director of Religious Education here at Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church in Houston, Texas. Our beloved community of faith, reason, and affection welcomes all to grow in mind and spirit as together we build a better world. If you are joining us for the first time this morning, we extend a special welcome to you and invite you to fill out our visitor card so you can receive more information about Emerson and our activities. Again, welcome to all. Emerson is a church in many places. Folks in the pews here and also watching via YouTube from wherever we might be. Oh, you know what? The reason the remote doesn't work is I didn't turn it on. And our world is a different one than it was in early 2020. Our worship service has changed accordingly. People on site are sitting in every other pew with space between families. We put a few offering baskets at the front and back of the sanctuary for people to drop off their offering throughout the service, rather than passing the plates. And only our musicians are singing right now, as the rest of us learn new ways to experience our hymns. Oh, I know I'm forgetting something. Following the worship service, remember to silence your phones. It is great if you want to text things or, put the best quote of the day up on Twitter, but silence your phones so that we don't find out what you're rooting for this week. Following the worship service, folks in the pews may head out to the courtyard and playground to chat. And we'll also have social time on Zoom, a chance for you to gather in smaller groups to discuss the service and what's going on in your lives. Folks online will give that link at the end of today's service, and it's also in today's e-blast. Now, let's get started with our prelude. Sean?
Good morning. I am the Reverend Michelle LaGrave, interim minister of this congregation. Our service today on this Halloween morning is about exploring our spiritual fears. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, wherever you find yourself on your life's journey, whichever your pronouns, whether you've walked in or rolled in or dialed in, whomever you love, you are welcome here.
Gather we now into this space, this time when the wheel turns and the veil shatters. Gather we now to remember, to grieve, to prophesy, to complete our harvest before the long dark comes. Gather we now to tell the old stories and sing the old songs, to be as we always have been, the voice of our people eternal. Gather we now to celebrate that which was, that which is, and that which will be. Gather we now, as we have always done, united by story and bound by love.
Universal mystery, guide us away from the desire to shine light in all the corners. Teach us to embrace the night, for without the darkness, we never see the stars. In body or spirit, and join safely home, move and dance here at church in our opening hymn. During this time of COVID, while our activities are still a bit restricted and we are waiting for our youngest folks to become eligible for full vaccinations, we will celebrate Halloween in a safer way by exploring a virtual haunted house. Yes, a pretend and virtual haunted house. To imagine what our Halloween celebration might be like were we not in the midst of a very real pandemic. And so, with a little help from our doll avatars, we will begin. On one very special morning, Reverend Michelle woke up and said to herself, "Today is going to be a very special day. It is Halloween, and it is a Sunday. I am going to get to see everyone's costume. I heard that Emma might be a red dragon, and I wouldn't be surprised if Elena came as a cat, but then I heard she might be an undead space princess. I wonder what Ada will be. What about the other children? I know some of the staff has a special group costume planned. I wonder who else will dress up." Good morning, everyone. Let's see, who do we have here? A softball player, a surgeon, a firefighter, a ballerina, a rock star, an artist, 2 mermaids, and a wildlife safari guide. How wonderful! I love all of your costumes. Now, who is ready to go explore the haunted house? I think it might be a little scary, so let's stick together. The artist is going to go first. Ooh, spooky. Are those doors opening by themselves? Look, there's a monster playing the organ, and her fingers aren't even touching the keyboard. Watch out, those faucets are really snakes. Oh no, it looks like she's turned into a zombie, and those shoes are turning into snakes. Look up above you. That giant spider is about to fall on your head. It's a giant rat hanging from the ceiling. Don't open that. It's a giant vine coming out to get you. Wait, is that Dracula? He's hanging upside down. Is he about to turn into a giant bat? Look, it's an enormous mouse teaching a science class. Is he teaching her how to turn people into zombies? It's a bookcase. I wonder if it leads to a secret passageway. Push on it if you dare. What's back there? I don't see anything. It's all dark. It's a werewolf. Where did she come from? Time to eat. Who's hungry? Steamed eyeballs, anyone? I don't think I'm hungry anymore. With one last surprise, we near the end of our haunted house. I'm not sure if I would open that if I were you. Gigantic eyeballs. I guess we know where the kitchen pantry is now. I hope everyone had fun exploring the haunted house today. Now, all together, let's get ready and do the monster mash.
If you all have your egg shakers, please join me.
I was walking in the lab late one night when my eye beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from the bag began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise,
He did the mash,
he did the monster mash.
the monster mash.
It was a great
He did the
No matter who or what you are welcome here. Let's be clear. Here we welcome goblins and ghouls, saints and sinners, angels and devils, zombies and werewolves, vampires and witches. We welcome princesses and princes, paupers and farmhands, aliens and astronauts, robots and cyborgs, firefighters and police officers, nurses and doctors, cowboys, cowgirls, cowfolk of all variety. We welcome Superman, Wonder Woman, Black Panther, Batman, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Thor. Indeed, we welcome both superheroes, superstars, Marvel, and DC. In short, we welcome people, monsters, and all other matters of creatures. Here we welcome you and all of who and what you are. Welcome, and let us begin.
Whew, still recovering. Giving out of what is our own is a transformative act. As a community of faith, we collect an offering, not for ourselves or our congregation, but to give to others as a collective action of our community and as a way to live out our shared values. Please give with a generous heart to support the October Share the Plate recipients. This month, 75% of the offering goes to the Houston Area Women's Center. Houston Area Women's Center provides safety and comprehensive life-saving services to survivors of domestic and sexual violence, empowering individuals, families, and communities to transform trauma, achieve independence, and stop abuse before it happens. The Houston Area Women's Center believes in a future defined by safe relationships and caring families when entire communities thrive free from violence. And as always, 25% of our offering will go to Interfaith Ministries Meals on Wheels, feeding Houston seniors. We have 3 ways to give. You can text the number on the screen, go to our webpage for online giving, or if you prefer to mail a check, yes, we are picking up the mail at church. For those in the sanctuary, we are not passing the basket, but you can bring your offering to the baskets up front, and there's a box in the back anytime throughout the service.
Please find a comfortable place to be or in your seats. Place your feet flat on the floor if you can and if you will, so that you might feel grounded, more connected to the earth which nourishes and sustains us all. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, and take a deep breath in. As together, we enter into a time of musical meditation. followed by silence.
When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to care as you do. Then I may learn to love.
Now let us enter into the silence together. Amen, and blessed be. We have gathered here and online this morning, this Halloween morning, ready to play, ready to use our imaginations, ready to celebrate, ready to toy with fantastical ideas. Many of us are dressed in costume. Some costumes represent people or things we love or admire or wish we could be or simply consider to be good fun. Others represent our fears, either literally or metaphorically. Ghosts, ghouls, and goblins, vampires, werewolves, and zombies, monsters of all kinds. These are the creatures of the night, creatures of the dark, creatures we imagine come out to play and to haunt on Halloween night. But why? Where do these ideas come from? Most scholars trace the origins of our celebration of Halloween to ancient Celtic practices at Samhain. Samhain is the time between summer and winter, a liminal time when many believe the veil between the two worlds thins and it becomes easy for spirits to pass into our world. The most ancient practices include leaving food and drink outside to propitiate the spirits and protect one's family and livestock from harm over the coming winter. Sacred bonfires were built, old hearth fires were extinguished, and new hearth fires begun with coals from sacred bonfires. Later practices included using the ashes from the sacred bonfires to darken one's face. Various forms of trick-or-treating and partying followed. Poor people, especially children, went door to door and were given soul cakes in exchange for prayers for the family's beloved dead. Geysers dressed in costume in an effort to blend in with the spirits roaming about and avoiding coming to harm. Mummers also dressed in costume and attended parties and played cards in silence. Jack-o'-lanterns arrived well after the influx of Christianity. As the story goes, a fellow named Jack tricked Satan into climbing a tree, then carved a cross in the bark so the devil could not climb back down. When Satan begged to be let down, Jack struck a deal with him that if he would let him out of the tree, Satan would never come for him and claim his soul. Jack then lived out the rest of his life in sin, knowing he was protected from hellfire. After Jack died, he was not allowed into heaven, of course. This is clearly not a Unitarian Universalist story. But we're telling it anyway, because it's Halloween. And Satan kept his end of the bargain too, not allowing Jack into hell. Then Satan, who was apparently still pissed at Jack for the whole tree incident, threw a coal from hell at Jack. Jack, now doomed to walk the earth for eternity as a spirit, picked up the coal, it being a cold night, and placed it in a carved-out turnip to both light his way and keep himself warm. Thus was born the jack-o'-lantern. Then, much later, when colonists brought the tradition to North America, jack-o'-lanterns were made from much easier to carve native pumpkins. And here in Texas, with Mexico as its close neighbor, many are now celebrating or about to celebrate the Day of the Dead, a holiday with some similarities to Halloween, such as giving gifts of sugar and chocolate, painting faces, wearing masks, and dressing in skeleton costumes. Though the Day of the Dead is more about celebrating real human ancestors and loved ones than playing with imaginary creatures, both holidays do consider what kind of life might exist beyond the grave. And of course, many families celebrate both holidays, such as is the case with the couple I married just last night in a Day of the Dead themed wedding. I'll put a picture up on Facebook later. Today, we recognize a developmental need for children to play. And Halloween, with all of its scary monsters and zombies, presents a perfect opportunity. Play is how children work out for themselves those things they do not yet understand, like monsters and death. Just as many years ago, one of my students, a preschooler in Migrant Head Start, did by repeatedly flying planes into wooden block towers right after 9/11. What is less recognized is that adults need to play too. We do. Adults have things they do not yet understand, which they attempt to work out in many ways, including play. Adults have things they fear too, fears they need to work out for themselves, things they don't understand, or things they need to reconcile for themselves. Today, I am dressed as a pirate. I just found out this past summer that several of my ancestors were apparently very well known and pirates. So despite whatever romantic or nostalgic ideas about pirates we might hold, the reality of their historic lives was rather complex. They murdered, plundered, stole, and kidnapped. They also set many slaves free and developed a pirate code that some historians credit as an early iteration of democracy. I find myself wanting to divide their legacy into either good or bad, which can't really be done. And I haven't yet fully incorporated this new aspect of my family history into our family story. The truth is, it scares me a bit to consider what it might mean to have pirates among my ancestors, what it might mean for my identity. And of course, all of us know there are real monsters and vampires and zombies out there waiting to be dealt with, though we call them haters or trolls or bullies or toxic people, among many other things. And we often struggle to understand the motivations behind their behaviors and the roles they should or should not play in our individual lives. We struggle to understand how to recognize their inherent worth and dignity as real human beings, while also maintaining healthy boundaries and keeping ourselves and others safer. As humans, we have a spiritual need to understand what we fear, especially when it is a fear of death. Zombies, currently popular in our culture year-round, not just at the time of Halloween, as seen in shows like The Walking Dead, can represent for us a fear of contagion, a fear of epidemics like AIDS or Ebola, or certain strands of the flu, or violence like mass shootings, or more currently, the COVID pandemic. And as humans, we have a spiritual need to address our fears. One way to do this is through spiritual practices like prayer, meditation, and yoga. But we can also engage in group spiritual practices. After tragedy strikes, we humans often hold candlelight vigils or prayer vigils, where we start attending worship services in greater numbers. For example, church attendance spiked right after 9/11. Or when white supremacists descended on Charlottesville a few years ago, clergy of all faiths, including ours, put on collars and stoles and made a human barrier between the battle-dressed protesters and the counter-protesters when police were unwilling to intervene. Think about that for a minute. Clergy, and I was not one of them, put on their protective gear, their religious armor of collars and stoles instead of garlic around the neck and wooden stakes and crosses. And in so doing, they faced their fears taken shape in the form of hatred and violence. There is a strength to be found in our faith communities. There is a power to be found in the expression of love. There is healing to be found with spiritual practice. There is value in the struggle to discern a course of action. We as a community can face our fears together, the little fears and the big ones, the consequential fears and the not so consequential, the fear of not making enough change fast enough, and the fear of making too much change too fast. We as a community, as diverse as we are in belief, can support each other in facing death, in facing change, in facing fear. And when we do so, when we support each other, we as a community can increase love, can increase justice, can increase hope, can increase healing, even when we are afraid. May it always be so. Amen, and blessed be. Now, let us rise in body or spirit Dance or quietly hum if you are here. Sing if you are at home. Number 395, Sing and Rejoice. When all is quiet and we are small and the night is dark, may we hear the tender breathing of all who lie awake with us in fear, that together we may gather strength to live with love and kindness and confidence. Go now in peace, knowing you are not alone in your fear nor in your solace. Amen. And blessed be.
So I have a little theological statement I'd like to pull out around this time of year. Unitarian Universalism declares that we have inherent worth and dignity. And how better to express that than to say that everyone should get a full-size Snickers bar. Of course, people who chose to wear a costume get first dibs. And if you are vegan or can't eat nuts, we also have Swedish Fish and Sour Patch Kids. So come see me in the courtyard after the service. Speaking of that, remember we have 4 entrances and exits from this room. Off to the side, we're actually going to prop the doors open. If you want to go to the courtyard, go that way. If you want to go to the parking lot, go that way. Back ones have ramps, front ones have stairs. You can also go to the narthex if you need to use the facilities or just know that route better. But remember, any socializing is happening outdoors, where it is safer for all of us. Outdoors, we ask that you use physical distancing and/or masking. You need to do at least one of those. And yes, we know that sometimes it's a little hard to hear, and we are all figuring out the best ways that everyone can feel comfortable and like their safety needs are being met. Also, following the service, the Zoom room will be open for people who want to come together. That link is emersonhouston.org/socialtime. And now I think we need to get the energy just a little more up. You should feel free to make your way to any of those exits during our postlude. A little bit more Monster Mash.
Take your time. It was a monster. The Monster Mash.